got infinite money, but the people are blind.
Good morning, conspiracy players. Welcome to another episode. Today we have someone who does not need an introduction, but I'll give him one anyway. It's William Ramsey from William Ramsey Investigates, and he's a podcaster, an author, I'm sure other things. And I'll let him take it away and add to that if he would like to. William, welcome to the show.
Colby, thanks for inviting me. Glad to be with you. Yeah, I've had a lot of different hats. You know, it's kind of like a jack of all trades, master of none. So, I author. I've done podcasting. I have 5 documentaries. I've been trying to post a lot on X, and I have some old articles that I've been reposting about the West Memphis 3 and stuff that I did over 10 years ago, like really crazy. So, actually, strangely, I'm an archivist or have an archive of my own writings that posted somewhere, got taken down, you know, got my YouTube channel's been taken away. But
so have you
for
lost?
all the pardon?
Did you lose some valuable stuff?
Oh, I think so. I think there's monetary value there because, like they said, they'll never give me my YouTube channel back. So the ability to make that income, and I think that's really actually the undercurrent of this so-called censorship. It's really not about censorship. It's about stopping voices they don't like and making sure they don't make money. Like the left comes off as like this equality thing. They're as ruthless and Darwinian as capitalist as their so-called adversaries on the right. So
yeah, it's funny because I remember, coming into adulthood, it was the George W. Bush administration and everybody was sounding the alarm from the left on censorship, and now both sides are doing it. I mean, we opened up talking about you having some stuff on X, and I do think that it's a lot easier over there than it has been, but I still think the so-called shadow banning, or what did Elon say himself? Freedom of speech doesn't mean freedom of reach, and that was not long after
I think
he
it's true.
acquired.
I think it's true. Rumble is supposed to be the new kind of place for the new right or the libertarians, but I've heard of things if you insult Teal or certain people, you get yourself pulled. They may not pull your whole channel, but they'll censor. So you're right. It's just a new kind of thing. Like that used to be a principle on the left. That was the liberal idea, is that free speech was just inherent in the Bill of Rights and less state, but it's gone. Like the whole character's changed.
Yeah, and is there a Teal Rumble connection? Does he have stock in that, or does he own it?
I think so. Yeah, I think that there's a Teal and Vance's. Their what do they call it? Their VC venture capital's behind Rumble. Yeah, that's my understanding. I have to double check that. So Vance is definitely a Teal guy. So if people don't know that, so Vance and Teal's pretty successful. I mean, I'd say he's very successful financially, but he's really good in getting kind of his network out there, much more so than I think Musk.
Yeah, he's almost like the Koch brothers, and it doesn't matter if it's D or R. He invests in both parties heavily, so that whoever wins, he's kind of got the strings on him. But yeah, you mentioned, I think JD Vance had the largest campaign contribution when he ran for Congress in 2022 from Teal, and I don't even remember the number, but it was just massive, unheard of.
It makes perfect sense. I mean, look at how successful these guys are. The tech oligarchy really got their claws into the Trump administration. They're all there. And I mean, Musk is there, but I mean, all these guys were invited for the inauguration. It wasn't, I mean, I guess that's the big industry is tech now. So there wasn't like captains of finance or automotives or big pharma. Maybe there were a few big pharma, but definitely everybody from Silicon Valley who was the CEO was there.
Yeah, and Joe Rogan, who has always stated he's not leaning one way or the other. He famously half-assed endorsed Bernie Sanders, to going from saying he would never have Trump on his podcast to have him on his podcast to endorsing him. And he also, like those people you just mentioned, he did attend the inauguration, which, if he can call himself not political and kind of just in the center now. I think people could call him out on that. And I have heard him say it. So, but yeah, today we want to talk about Austin. And I think we're kind of laying some groundwork for some of the players here. And I'm sure we all noticed during the COVID pandemic a mass exodus from Texas, but it almost seems to me like Austin had already kind of been the spot, and it just maybe rushed things along. I don't know if Elon or Joe Rogan were already planning on going there at some point, but it just kind of seems like this new petri dish, kind of similar to the Laurel Canyon, where just mass influence is just congregating there. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
It's really incredible, and it's only happened in a very short time, within 10 or 5 years, even. So I think it is a phenomenon people should, be aware of this whole kind of new Austin cultural nexus. I think is it used to be they called it the Berkeley of the Midwest or something like that. It's literally like one dot of all the left wing people in a huge red state, but just this kind of cultural epicenter. I think what did Rogan do? The mothership, comedy mothership, and all of his networks. Like, I mean, he is a remarkable guy. Like, I really think he's a person of. I wrote this on my social media of world impact because he's had so many people, not just Trump on the interviews of Trump, but he had so many people from this administration on there. Musk, Gabbard, JFK. He always promoting JFK Jr. or sorry, RFK Jr. in his book about Fauci and all these other people. And really it's almost like the ideas that were in the Rogan kind of Joe Rogan experience are the ideas of this administration. So I think the intellectual or the kind of ideological outlook, however you want to pigeonhole Rogan, are in this administration. And by the way, for people who don't know, that interview that he did with Trump was downloaded 50 million times.
That's incredible. And you mentioned RFK Jr. I've noticed with both Trump and RFK Jr. there was like this slow drip of anticipation because he had said about both RFK Jr. and Trump that he would never have either one of them on.
Oh, wow.
He laughed at the Anthony Fauci book and then he read it and he had a change of heart, had RFK Jr. on, and as soon as whether you want to say it's real or staged, as soon as the event in Butler, Pennsylvania took place, you could see Rogan starting to soften up. And then it was I think late October, he ended up finally having him on. I didn't know it was 50 million downloads, not
right. And apparently, like there was like a kind of a famous thing where Rogan was announcing for a UFC thing, and Trump went and shook his hand after the election. He said, "You won me the election." So
yeah.
even Trump acknowledged that. So there was these very important, something happened. This is like the bro thing too. I don't know where Dylan is at, but Dylan and Theo Vaughn and Rogan all had these.
Tim Dillon?
Yeah.
Yeah, because he just had Steve Bannon on recently.
Correct. But they also had they had Vance and Trump. And I think right at that crucial time, right before the election, they had them on. So I think that these were much more listened to than it was the death, like another death knell of the TV as an important impact on people. Because Harris couldn't do these long-term shows. I mean, Rogan was talking about taking steps to get her on, but she can't talk for a long period of time extemporaneously. So that's not the right format for her. That kind of media isn't the optimal place for Kamala Harris.
Or just the left in general, really, because look at what Gavin Newsom's attempting to do right now. I mean,
really good point. I mean, it's good to bring him in there. Like, he's totally incompetent, but he's going to start a podcast and try to kind of take that space. I think he recognized, or his team or something, that this has been much more influential. It used to be a fringe, like podcasting was maybe 10 years ago. That was like the little nitwits like me could actually get a voice out, But now it's really changed, and all the real thinking is taking place on podcasts. It's not happening on television.
Did you ever hear about this guy? And he was in the Obama administration at some capacity, but I always forget his name. I think it's Sun Silverstein, but
Cass Sunstein.
Cass Sunstein, thank you. Sorry, everybody out there. I've been saying that wrong for several episodes. Cass Sunstein, I'll remember this. So, you know about his proposal to Barack about basically doing an Operation Mockingbird level type thing with the alternative media, and podcasts were mentioned in there. They weren't that big yet, but during COVID, they actually paid a bunch of these quote unquote smaller influencers on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok to start pushing some COVID propaganda. And I mean, they didn't cover their tracks very well, but what do you think of Joe Rogan's rise? Do you think that it started organically, or do you think there was always maybe some influential strings being pulled there?
You kind of wonder, I mean, I think that if you go back and look at his earlier shows, they don't have the sophistication of what he is now. But he had a preset kind of group of people, a comedian and a guy who was doing UFC and an actor. So he has a lot of different hats originally before he even started that. So some people have done research into him and said he's had all these corporate backgrounds. I run corporate ads on my podcast. I don't really even have any control over them. It's Spreaker who does it, or before when I was on Spotify.
Yeah, but wouldn't you say there's a difference between that and the corporation actually pulling you aside and saying, "Hey, we're going to start this product"? And I'm actually talking about the Fleshlight, which led
Right.
to, so that's Aubrey Marcus, right?
So it was Marcus the Fleshlight too?
Marcus made the Fleshlight.
Oh, see, I didn't know that.
And then his stepdad, who is a huge money guy and just has all his wealth spread out through markets all over. I mean, Brandy Renee, I don't know if you're familiar with her. She's pretty big on X. She does these presentations. She showed me the breakdown of the money in his early episodes. As soon as he got the Fleshlight, Aubrey Marcus's dad pressured Rogan to co-found on it with Aubrey Marcus, and then Alpha Brain was created by Aubrey Marcus's stepmother. And if you just look at all these people, because both his parents got remarried and they all have money in these things, and they pretty much took Joe Rogan from his when he was doing it at his house in the early days, where it was just all dick jokes and messing around. They didn't really ever get sophisticated until he kind of moved into his little office. And if you watch you watch On It stocks go up, and you watch Joe Rogan's show. I mean, it's basically like the same thing.
Fascinating.
And I don't know. I don't want to get off too much into that, but I think that for anybody out there who wonders about it, it's worth looking into. And
what is Aubrey Marcus's dad or stepdad's name?
Oh, that's a good question.
Okay. I'm just out of curiosity. I don't know offhand.
I don't either. I did at one point. I can actually send you a bunch of these slides that Brandy put together, because it's all about Aubrey in the early days. And
do you know how many Fleshlights were sold and at what price?
I don't.
I think it was something in the millions. I think it was an extraordinary number at $70 or $80 a pop. I don't think they're expensive to make. I knew they were headquartered in Austin. Now it makes sense.
Yeah, and so it always leads back to Austin, and we got to throw Alex Jones into the mix at some point, because he's really integral to this whole, like, he had a fake beef with Joe Rogan, and they would have him on, and then they would be mad at each other. It was like WWE, they're mad at each other, and then he comes back on and talks about interdimensional child molesters who smoke DMT.
Gets all these news. It goes viral, right? So
and
that pose of Jones, like, he's like praying or doing something.
Exactly.
Like, this is good. These guys are good marketers. They are fantastic marketers. You have to give them props. When Joe, like, a lot of stuff about, like, just as right? Because Jones, one of the things Jones, they can make funny of about the frogs changing their sex or whatever. The frogs are growing penises or whatever. But what they leave out is that he says that, and then he sells Berkeys. So he says the frogs are growing, whatever, and then the Berkey ad comes on. Right, so he's the people in their minds, they don't put this together. He is priming his audience to buy a Berkey because they don't want to have his turn into a female or male or whatever.
Well, and also,
so these guys are good. So you have to give props, because you have to see Rogan as a Jones 2.0, don't you?
Oh, I think he is kind of amalgamation of like Terrence McKenna and Alex Jones, because if you look at like these CIA projects where they had these people out in the psychedelic movements, it started probably with Gordon Wasson with Time Magazine going down to Mexico and bringing psilocybin into the, our public attention. And
Associated with Morse Allen. This is the pre MK Ultra stuff. Like,
yeah,
Morse Allen is the guy before the poisoner in chief, right? Gottlieb. So Wasson is connected. Sorry, but there's a CIA connection. There's no question.
Oh yeah, I hope you anything I say elaborate on it, because I think that I have like surface level knowledge on stuff you could probably just unpack for us. But
I've done a show on Morse Allen, so he's an important figure. So
Okay.
post World War II, but looking into all these drugs and promoting them, and the time goes to loose. And I mean, the culture creation of that time. I've done recent shows on. We should do a show. You should have me back on to talk about something from that time frame, which is Catcher in the Rye.
Oh, I'd love
And
to.
how-
I've
yeah,
seen,
no,
seen
it'll
your
blow your
work on
mind,
that.
dude. Yeah, because it ties into like CIA culture creation, and then like priming the public. That book has sold 65 million copies, and then so from this like time frame, like even Gordon Washington and the shrooms, like nobody knew it in the Western world, and now it's like part of the list of like drugs that are available. LSD, shrooms that before the 50s didn't exist. So sorry to interrupt.
No. Like I said, feel free, because I'll skim over some stuff, and if you could just drop some good stuff in there behind that, that's what we're here for. But yeah, you had that going on, and of course, everyone knows about Tim Larry. He's an admitted CIA asset, and you look at the Grateful Dead with just all the stuff that was going on there with the acid tests, and Laurel Canyon at the same time. And I think that this new movement, you'll even see smaller big shows like Tinfoil Hats now pushing these microdoses.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's one of their affiliates
Didn't know
now.
that.
And I can't help but think, like, it goes back to Aubrey Marcus. He was doing these ayahuasca excursions, and also he's like this psychonaut / businessman. He pushes polyamory, and
Oh, I didn't know. I wasn't aware of that either.
oh yeah, he's a good rabbit hole to dive into, because he's not so connected anymore, and On It has since been sold. Even though
I wasn't
Rogan,
aware of that either. Who'd they
Well,
sell it to? Do you know?
I don't remember who they sold it to, but the funny thing is there was a pending lawsuit about the product Alpha Brain not being what it's cracked out to be, and so they were able to get rid of it. But that's still going on in the shadows, and there's not a lot of people talking about that. I heard Podcast Fringe is a pretty good YouTube channel where he just breaks down all these bigger shows.
Interesting. Wow.
But
See,
anyway,
I didn't know that.
he brought the On It lawsuit to my attention, and I think that probably had a lot to do with why they sold it when they did. But that was the launch pad for all of this, as far as the money goes.
Do you know how many supplements in value, the value of the supplements that Jones sells every year?
Oh, I don't know the number.
It's
do you?
extraordinary. I think somebody said it was $60 million a year
Woo.
on that alone. So not the advertising, not anything else, just on, and that's why he pushes them all the time, because he's really selling it, and it's like a family affair there too. So his dad runs whatever he does, Super Male Vitality or whatever. So it's interesting that Rogan has these family connections, or had one. I haven't heard him promote On It for a while, so maybe that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, that's why he still will mention Alpha Brain occasionally, and I know
and that
people...
fleshlight disappeared too. Like, that's how funny it is. This guy's like a world historical figure now, promoting like a sex toy. Like, it's incredible when you think about it. Like, whoa.
Well, I think it kind of, and we might be going off on another direction here. I don't care where we go.
But
with
it's still the nexus of Austin, because this is coinciding with the serial killings that are going on.
Yes,
Like,
we will.
They
get
found
to
a body
that.
this week, and they didn't announce anything. So there's this kind of feeling of like Chinatown level corruptions. I'm not exaggerating, but it's something's in the water with all these guys doing all around each other and stuff.
Before we move into the what could be potentially smiley face killings, I do want to talk about the fleshlight, because to me, if you look at what these podcasters do, they push something that's almost borderline slippery slope to transhumanism, because everybody out there is addicted to porn. You give them this device that is supposed to be better than the real thing, and now you're having to sell them all Blue Chew. I don't know a lot of old people that listen to conspiracy podcasts that need the help, and these same podcasters are talking about how we need to stop pharmaceutical companies from being to advertise in the United States. There's a whole free speech thing about that. I happen to think that the way they do it should be outlawed entirely. But if you're going to get rid of that, you also have to stop selling Blue Chew, because it is basically generic Viagra and Cialis. So
I don't know that either.
yeah,
I don't know this stuff. I don't. Yeah.
Well, in the ads, if you listen to any one of these people, we've named some of them that advertise Blue Chew, they say same active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis in the ad read. So that's a pharmaceutical, if you ask me. And
I think so.
I think all you have to do is FaceTime somebody at the headquarters of Blue Chew. They ask you a few questions, and then you get it the next day in the mail. So they've taken out a lot of the middlemen in it.
Wow, fascinating. So basically, I mean, I think Rogan has to be seen as kind of almost a new age influencer. There's an aspect to him. UFOs and this alternate sex lives. This is kind of you're right. He's at the edge of kind of a non-traditional promote. He's definitely not trying to get people to go back to kind of a 50s lifestyle or something. There's something else going on. And he was just with like a lot of UFO people. Like I saw a picture of him recently, and I'm like, these guys are freaking close to being con men if they're not just flat out con men.
Oh, I saw you tweet that, and it was like a dinner with Jacques Vallée and a few other of the bigger names in the UFO/UAP, whatever they're calling it these days, phenomenon. But yeah, so we should talk a little bit. We talked about Alex Jones, but I think Elon and his Austin, Texas presence. I just watched a video this morning. You may know some of this. This was released in late November of last year, so just a few months ago. He has built a compound in Austin, Texas, where he wants 11 out of his, I think I lost track at 15 kids. There's new ones 16, There's new ones that are coming into the limelight all the time, but he wants at least 11 of his kids and 2 or 3 of the moms to live there. And then he has these little in this video, it's talking about all these properties he owns from LA to Austin, Texas. And then they said he's building these little tiny units, the small homes, because at heart, Elon Musk is a minimalist. I mean, the commentator in this video said that with a straight face. Sure. And anyway, I just think like whatever's going on over there, you have his compound. Apparently Joe Rogan has a compound. Who knows what Alex Jones has going on over there. But I recently heard in an episode of Joe Rogan, I think it was with the comedian Andrew Schultz, if I'm remembering correctly, but he said, Joe, you're such a good guy. You like paid all these people to come here. So they kind of unpacked it a little bit, and I'm going to paraphrase. Apparently Joe Rogan wanted all of these comedians and people that work behind the scenes to come to Austin with him. And this was during COVID, and he paid them a salary to like sit on until they could get all of this going. And I mean, the money that this guy has, if he can just throw it around like that, no one ever really gave a report that I saw on what he did make with the Spotify deal. But
well, the most recent deal was $250 million for 1 year. Joe Rogan is pretty close to a billionaire. I mean, his assets
he has to be.
Yeah.
Because it was the first contract with Spotify was kind of just like let's see how this works out, kind of like a maybe flexible end date, and then they redid it. I didn't know that it was $250 million.
But they got so much press out of that earlier one. Remember, like a podcaster is getting offered $100 million. Wow. So, I mean, it's almost like what they do in baseball contracts, announce the numbers so they get a lot of press. But like, yeah, I think that he's upped his game. So he's not hurting for cash. He can afford all that stuff. He has other forms of revenue too. I mean, it's just like, guy's multifaceted businessman. I mean,
well, he had an initial deal with Disney that gave him, he calls it his fuck you money. It's what he calls it. And that was from Disney. And then he had the Fear Factor deal. And then he signed with UFC so early on that the contracts, of course, grew from there. But
yeah, he's really remarkable. He's outlasted a lot of other people with UFC. Like they let go of some of the other announcers and stuff, but Rogan's been like 20 years or something. Crazy.
Yeah, he was there from like the ground level.
Yeah, when they were doing like UFC 1, like crazy. What are they at now? 300 or 400? Something, I don't know. Yeah, these are remarkable people. They're so influential, Jones and Musk and Rogan. So it makes sense that Musk would be on with Rogan. And you have to see those earlier conversations still go ongoing. Those earlier conversations before the election is also important. So it's not just Trump, it's not just Kennedy, it's not just Gabbard, it's Musk too, and I forgot who else was on there.
Well,
It's incredible.
You could throw the whole intellectual dark web thing into there with these people whose careers he's launched. I'll point out Jordan Peterson, because I think Jordan Peterson has done people like us a huge disservice, because he gets a lot of these younger, like outside the box thinking men who need some guidance following them. And then he goes on Rogan and promotes false memory syndrome,
Wow,
which
that's
he
crazy.
I don't know if he brought up McMartin and Presidio by name, but he was saying there was this thing that happened in the 80s and 90s, and it turned out all these kids were making it up, and he totally pushes this false
Wow.
memory syndrome.
Yeah, it gets dark with Jude. His background is crazy. He holds the same chair, or held the same chair as Leary at Harvard.
Oh, Peterson?
Yes,
No kidding.
yes. And when it came from McGill, like that's Ewan Cameron type stuff. Like he was in this same kind of psychology as Ewan Cameron, who was the head of world psychology, doing a horrible stuff, like unspeakable mind control stuff. So has to know a lot of that. And somebody, I think it was John Brisson, told me that Peterson was writing for the UN too, much like Eric Weinstein. And one of the Weinstein brother, I think it's Brett Rogan, promoted that guy from nothing. Like he was from Evergreen College when they had that whole Evergreen, which in your neck of the woods. That's when he came on. Weinstein came on, and so these guys all got made. And then I think it's Eric is tied to Teal too. So
Eric's tied to Teal and Epstein. Yeah. And he blocked Whitney Webb on Twitter because she pointed that out.
I'm sure she did. Yeah. I saw the guy. Like I just actually posted about Dershowitz because people forget about Giuffre got in an accident. Really, like she's really exposed a lot of these people.
I just saw that 5 minutes before I logged on.
So anyway, so I just posted about Dershowitz. I saw there's a clip, I can probably find it, but Dershowitz is on there saying like, I'm going to sue everybody who says anti-Semitism or accuses me of this. And Brett Weinstein's nodding along, like he knows he's log rolling for Dershowitz, who, you know, he was sued. Dershowitz was sued by Giuffre in 2019, and all of this information came out in the complaint, so people can read it for themselves. And those lawsuits are still available. These guys are on TV, just not acknowledging this. Like, I cannot believe that Dershowitz is like not shunned or something. Like, people should throw garbage at that guy. He's a monster. He's a total monster. And seeing I get him mixed up all the time. Seeing Eric Weinstein with him in like something's going on between them that's not good, not savory. Yeah, something unsavory in my opinion. I'll say that. Very unsavory.
And Jordan Peterson disappeared, and they said he was undergoing treatment in Russia for benzodiazepine withdrawal, because apparently he got quite an addiction during his big tours promoting his books, and then his wife had some kind of cancer and he just became dependent. It must have been Xanax or something similar, and he had to go over there and undergo this special treatment. And I was wondering, like, what's going on? And then when he came back, he was different. I mean, and you would be. That can severely do brain damage when you withdraw from benzos, but I don't know if there's something to it. But when you mention that he has the same seat as Tim Leary, it's just like, could be some weird MK Ultra stuff going on. Who knows? But
yeah, I mean, he's obviously a really smart guy. But when you have a doctor in kind of psychiatry and stuff, I think he does, you learn a lot of this stuff. You learn behavior modification and all these things, all these different mental states and all that stuff. And you don't know who, I mean, if you're working for the UN, how do you get off of Harvard and go to the UN? You don't know what these guys know. You know, it's crazy. These are people in rarefied air that do different things. Cass Sunstein, you mentioned earlier, his wife is like the head of USAID, Samantha Power. People don't know that. I call them the satanic duo from hell, because USAID is financing. We don't even know the full thing. And Musk has got his finger on all that stuff out of those payments. And I mean, they're just selling us out. It's just so sick. We're clearly slaves, like the American people are slaves, but just like the amount of money that was going overseas for nefarious things and wandering and all kinds of stuff is off the charts. It's
Yeah.
off the charts.
So
Anyway,
Elon
Peterson.
went on Rogan's show, I think it's either 2017 or 2018 the first time. And you probably remember this because it's been memified beyond anything I've ever seen. It's him taking the fake
Smoke, right?
and he doesn't inhale it. He does the old Clinton. He puffs on it like a cigar. Then he pretends he's stoned and opens up about how torturous it is to be inside his head. I mean, he really leans into this smartest man alive. And I mean, we've done so many deep dives into Elon. The guy's never really invented anything. He's a master at corporate takeovers. And
Yes.
whatever they're doing with SpaceX, I think is super fishy. But SpaceX, Neuralink, Starlink, they kind of all tie together. But Rogan, for years, has been saying, eventually, human evolution, we just need to be able to read each other's minds, and that's going to solve everything. And he's been kind of pushing for this Neuralink idea, and then he teams up with Elon. They become best friends immediately after that first episode, which he strategically sank Tesla's stock by doing that marijuana
Right, that's
stunt.
right. It caused a big hubbub, right?
It did. I mean, he's tanked his stock before, and his brother sold right before that because Elon got on Twitter and said, should I sell Tesla? Or he said something. It was just like a question, and then the stock went down. His brother dumps it all. It goes back up. He got investigated for that, by the way.
I remember that. Yeah, I do.
I mean, they just do these little things, and they use Rogan as the hub for all of it. And like you said, Tulsi Gabbard was nobody before she was a congresswoman in Hawaii when she first went on his show. And he even said to her, would you ever run for president? And now look at her. Yeah. But Peter Thiel, before we move on to the comedy scene, did you watch his interview with Rogan?
A little bit of it. Yeah. I mean, somebody called him, I think Jose called him a gay Frankenstein. I think it was kind of funny comment because he looks sweaty and like talk about transhumanism. But I mean, Joe Rogan gives all these guys a pass, don't you think?
Well, Epstein came up in that interview and he said, I think we should stop looking at the sex trafficking element. I wonder why Peter Thiel would say that. And then he focuses shifts all of the attention to Bill Gates being in with Epstein, and they just gloss over how Thiel knew him. And I think Thiel probably had deeper connections than Bill Gates personally. I think Gates was definitely in the mix, but Peter Thiel into this cybersecurity and his Palantir being used by NSA and all that stuff. I mean, he is literally building the thing James Cameron warned us about in Terminator.
Right.
I mean,
like
it's
beast system. Yeah,
the Palantir stuff in the military is just. There's some videos you can watch on what this stuff does, and if they're telling us it does it, that's probably what it's been doing for 40 years. But I got to think all these DARPA projects, like Peter Thiel probably came in, and it had already been mostly developed at that point, but he kind of took the reins of it. And I would say that's the same formula Elon Musk uses. Tesla, they were 3D printing mRNA vaccines during the pandemic. Elon Musk increased his wealth by 600% in 2020 and 2021. So, I mean, these guys, they're in on all of it, and then they pretend to be anti-vax while they're selling them. So Joe Rogan's story is, I was on my way to get the J&J. I was going to get it, and they called and said, oh, they just recalled it because people are getting blood clots. And then, his slow swing to where he is now.
How many people were in on it? That's what's really scary. How many people know and have survived, and families are not sick and things like that? Because some whole families got wiped out. I did a bioweapon blues thing, 49 episodes, and like certain parts of the country were clearly targeted. And for depopulation, there's absolutely no question about it. And you see all these wealthy people, and they're never complaining. And Trump has just moved on. Like, it's not even an issue. Like according to McCullough, these people know these facts. Like Alex Jones knows these facts. 500,000 people died in the United States from the shot. So it's all like known. And these guys are just, it just shows the power of the culture creation that these guys Rogan has, and all these guys on Rogan, and he's networking with all of them. Like it's really impressive when you think about it. But like, why isn't he sick? Why isn't his family sick? Because I'm online with people who's like children died. Like I'm watching them mourn their children and stuff like that. I've done a lot of shows like there was people.
So do you think that there was like maybe a control group within the shots, like some of it was saline and then certain areas were
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I think that it's come from multiple sources. So there's a guy in France who said a lot of the politicians took fake shots or were exempt. There were other exemptions that were stated from Croatia or Slovenia. Like a woman said, some of the ones that have the 0 in the front have 0 MNRA, and the ones with ones in the front are MNRA. So people can, if you know the inside information, you know exactly which one to take. You know, you just take the 0, 1, 0. Yeah, I took the shot, but you know it doesn't have anything in it. I think that they did massive testing on all kinds of different solutions on people. Basically, kill off who they want, lab rat other people. Some people are still making spike proteins. They didn't say that, but you know, like their bodies are going to make spike protein until they're dead. The insiders knew, like they knew the culling was going to take place. So I think Trump knew. Trump knows. He's just playing it off, like, because you can tell by the lack of interest. Some of these, like one of the things is the lack of interest. That should be telling because it was such a catastrophic event. You talk about these wealth transfers that took place. That was part of the event. It was a big event. You know, you can talk about the anti-corona in the center of it too. It was like another 9/11, really, where the insiders benefited. Insider information benefited, and all the other people just kind of went along because they trust on these vipers, you know. And there's no reason not to trust them now. I don't think anybody trusts anything that comes out because they've seen the consequences of it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where that goes because you could see so many things in the media in the last few months, like they keep planting the seeds for the next big one. It's Ebola was in the news last week. Bird flu's all over the place. And
who watches them? Who intelligent watches the old legacy media anymore? I heard they tried to sell CNN. Nobody would take it for $1. The liabilities are beyond the income because nobody intelligent's watching that shit at garbage anymore.
Well, speaking of which, did you see this idea floated around a few weeks ago about Musk acquiring MSNBC and putting Joe Rogan? I think it was probably tongue in cheek, but it also was when he said he was going to buy Twitter the first time around. And then, but was it, you know, it's kind of like they know they're going to do it and they kind of get us ready for it. They prime us for it.
There's no reason for these guys to even touch the ancient media. They probably just know it's a lost leader, and being associated with that brand is a net, you know, negative. It's not positive. Like, I mean, MSNBC's for 2-digit IQs, man. Come on, let's be honest.
Yeah.
This is stupid stuff. Like, this is just noise and fury signifying nothing. So, I think that those are, you know, these guys know how to play the media. They know how to stay in the media. I mean, that's the interesting thing about these guys is maybe the average person doesn't get. Like, Rogan comes from entertainment. So he knows how to stay relevant media, presentation, influencer, all that stuff. So I think that these are things that these guys do. I mean, Musk is an excellent salesman. That's the whole thing. Like, he is selling. They actually had his trans, I think it was a boy who became a woman. He's like, he's not going to Mars. This is all marketing.
Yeah, the Hassan, what's his name? Hassan Piker or something like that.
Yeah, he was on.
Yeah, I saw a little clip of it on X yesterday, and yeah, it's funny too because Xavier, I think
you're right. Yeah,
but I think the name was probably changed at some point.
Yeah, you better watch out because you could be dead naming somebody. Get in trouble. You better not say the word tranny either, because I got in trouble. Somebody like wanted to kill me for saying the word tranny.
I've had friends of mine that listen to my podcast that are like, "Really? Are you going to use that word?" I was like, "You know what? That word was fine for years. They used it, and now, what's the difference between trans and tranny? Tranny's a cuter word, really. It's like, oh, look at it, a little tranny. And trans is just kind of like, I don't know. It's almost transhumanist to call them trans.
Yeah, really good point. Like, that's not something you want to be because you're supposedly technically a woman now. You don't want to be associated with trans. Today, by the way, is the Trans Acknowledgement Day.
I thought that was every day.
Oh, well, I think you're right. Today's a special set-aside day for trans.
Is this like
people.
a newer holiday?
I saw it on social media. Let me see if I can find it. Somebody posted about it. It's something different. Trans Day of Visibility.
Okay.
That's it. So I think that. I
Well,
don't know.
William, I think we just like unraveled a lot. If you wanted to comment on anything, you didn't get to go in there before we move into the Austin comedy scene.
Well, let me see if I can see this. The GLAAD, each year on March 31st, the world observes Transgender Day of Visibility to raise awareness about transgender people. So this is the trans day. It really is today. I have the website. I can see it right here. It's part of GLAAD. And I would like to say, before we go into thing, I'd like to acknowledge a trans person. Her name was Scarlett Will. He was a man. We don't even know his real name, but his trans name, I'm not going to say tranny, trans name is Scarlett Blake out of Oxford. And I'd like to acknowledge this person who was convicted in 2024 of committing a textbook smiley face killing in the city of Oxford. I'm going to call him a man who thinks he's a woman. He still has his penis, so we're in some kind of nether world. He came out of Tavistock clinic, which is even more disturbing, which the new PM of Canada's son went through as well. Same thing as Scarlett Blake, who I don't know his real name, but his trans name is Scarlett Blake. I'd like to acknowledge him for committing this crime that fits all of the things people have speculated about in these crimes. He was a trans person who went out to deliberately find a victim at night wearing a mask, found this man, Jose Carreño, who was drunk, befriended him, talked to him, led him out of the CCTV, thinking, premeditation, went out, took him to a river, like a little pond. We don't know exactly what happened there for an hour, but his cell phone died an hour later. Jose Carreño was found the next day in the pool, face down. It was assumed it was an accidental drowning. And he got away with it. Scarlet Place happened in 2021. So he only got convicted 3 years later. And he was the textbook thing. Random, intent, murder. Scarlett Blake went to the death scene and was seen in pictures and stuff, going to the site of where he committed the murder. So he also put a cat in a blender, cut it up. So he was like Magnata, this guy who killed cats. He was also a trans person or whatever, a dude who thought he was a gay prostitute or a girl. I don't know. Anyway, so I'd like to acknowledge Scarlett Blake. That is not acknowledged. And one of the interesting things about Scarlett Blake is the person who said that he committed the crime, because he told him, was another trans person with his pictures are online, who's also seems to be a hustler. They used to call them hustlers in my day, but maybe a trans prostitute who lived in all places, Austin, Texas.
Oh, this isn't Zizzy and stuff, is it?
Well, it's interesting you asked that question, because the Zizzy, and I've done a show on that. I've studied the trans kind of group, but with connections all over the place. New Hampshire, Pennsylvania, outside of Philly, and California. One of the guys, Maximilian Schell, who's in jail in Vallejo, is my understanding right now, for one of these crimes, is from Oxford. So he's a trans person from Oxford, just like Scarlett Blake, Asian trans. What is the likelihood that he knows Scarlett Blake?
I mean, if I was a betting man, I'd feel pretty safe putting
I
my
think
chips
so
on the
too.
table.
Or aware of it, because it's a smaller community. It's a community of people, like whatever it is. Like if you're into D&D or sports betting or whatever, I don't know, whatever kind of smaller community, I would assume that they knew each other. And the interesting thing about Scarlett Blake, who committed the perfect crime, literally perfect crime, got away with it. He was exposed by somebody else, right? So he was walking around in the real world after committing this crime for like 3 years. He was traveling around a lot. He was coming to the United States. He was coming to Colorado. And when they convicted him in the courts of the UK, they never really wanted to go into his background. They just put him in jail and that's it. So they never like, what other crimes has this guy committed? He's like 28 or something like that. So it's just the weirdest thing, like not really wanting to look into this. Like, is this the first one? Because there's a lot. I've studied this. We're going to kind of segue into the smiley face killings. There's 400 dead people. Are there other killers like him? He's networked. Are they talking about this online? Are they part of the Zizians? Are they doing this? We know the Zizians kill. Like, there's evidence there's killings in multi-jurisdictions. They're traveling around. They were one of the things of like the Zizians in New Hampshire is they were wearing tactical gear. Like they were armed for like the end of the world or something like that. So, and also Scarlet Blake, who I would like to acknowledge, Transville's Visibility Day, he was also kind of wearing tactical gear. You can see pictures of the guy. He had a backpack, mask, overcoat, kind of like a hoodie. So a hoodie and a mask, and all in black. And he kind of looked like a girl. Like if I saw him, I'd go, I don't know what the gender of this person is. Like I know what the gender is now because there's a court case and records. And I've done a show. I'll send you the link, but I've done a show in the show notes about Scarlet Blake because, and even in the smiley face community, like people who studied the smiley face killers, they didn't see the connection. So you have a kind of trans smiley face killer, and how many other ones are out there? That's what should scare you.
And how long have these been going on, William? Because I do look at you as the people in the circle I am aware of as the smiley face killer kind of research expert.
There's other researchers, Jim Smith, who I'd recommend. The original experts were Gilbertson and Gannon, and they kind of were in two different spots, two different locales. Gannon was New York City. Gilbertson was somewhere in Wisconsin or Minnesota. I always forget. Anyway, the first real case I think that this starts cropping up is in the mid-90s. His name was McNeil, and he was in New York City. So I think it's been happening and with increasing rapidity, accelerating for the last 25, 30 years.
And you said there's 400 victims in total?
Well, at least. I mean,
at least.
Yeah. I mean, that's
Confirmed.
my book. I think in my book, I added up all the cases I studied, and it was 378. And these are the ones that fit that same profile I was telling about with Scarlet Blake. Younger guy, out late at night, maybe drinking, gets separated from his friends, somehow drowns, with nobody seeing him drowned. So they're not even necessarily drowned, being found in water and without anybody seeing them. And sometimes in much places that have been searched earlier or much later than that should have been found. So
it was confirmed in autopsies, right, that they did die somewhere else than where they were found.
For sure. So something very suspicious is going on with a lot of these cases. So I think like there's some people, this is just a normal drowning. It's not normal to go out at a bar and then be found in water. Like people do drown. Like I'm going to go to the park and go swimming at the pond. I'm not a very good swimmer. It's 3:00 and people, horrible stuff happens. Kids drowned. But those are daytime. These are all cases at night of people who left bars or something. They're not just like, oh, I'm going to go for a walk at 11 p.m. or something like that. They literally are found. So and it got its name, Smiley Face Killings, from Gilbertson and Gannon, who found like this smiley, like a sign around the smiley face symbol close to where they think the body was put in the water. Not where they were found dead, but where they think that somebody was leaving a tag or a marker. So it's kind of the name that stuck. But there's another researcher on X who I'd recommend. He does staged drownings. And I think staged drowning is probably a better term, but like I said, it's a name that stuck. Like other names stick, like Black Widow Killer, the woman who always kills her husband or someone. So this is kind of the name that's stuck on with this type of crime.
But it's not like thoroughly throughout all these cases. It just seems to me like, it's the moniker that would stick in the lexicon. It's just got that ring to it. But so how does this go into Austin now? Well,
there's just been like this. Okay, so the early guys are like, oh, this is only happening kind of in cold areas or the north or Boston, which there's a lot of cases. And so people kind of regionalized it. And then all of a sudden, these cases cropped up in Chicago and Austin. So in Austin, in the last 3 or 4 years, really not that long, there's been about 15 cases. And so then it's like, wow, so this type of crime is happening in Austin now, which coincides, strangely enough, with the growth of kind of like the entertainment community and the comedy community and all the stuff that grew up in Austin recently. So it's very strange the people in Austin kind of don't see it in its broad. They don't understand it's part of a broader phenomenon, broader geographical phenomenon. So they give it this thing, the Rainy Street, which is their popular party street is Rainy Street. So they call it the Rainy Street Ripper, or the Ladybird Lake Killer, or something like that, because that's the lake they're found in. That's kind of the main lake in Austin. It's Ladybird. It's basically just a slow rolling pond. It's not you could just, if you fell in, you could just pop yourself back out. It's not something like that. But I do think the local authorities are covering things up there, like they do everywhere, actually. But there's a couple good recent documentaries about it. People have gone to discuss things with people. You can see them on YouTube. But it is associated kind of with this comedy. There's been a couple cases that, like, one guy's name was Christian Pugh, and I write about him in my book. He's a younger guy, 21. But in 2019, he disappeared in Rainy Street. He wasn't found for 3 days. He was in the bushes around Lake. He doesn't remember anything. But he was at a comedy club for Tom Segura. He was at a comedy show, and then he disappeared. And so there's actually an interesting video online of those two talking to each other, and Segura pops up. And then another kid who died recently. This is really covered up. It's full on covered up. They don't even mention his name. His name was Eli Blau. He's from Israel. And he was found partially unclothed, really kind of, if you went from the Austin mayor's office and went straight south into the lake, he was found right there. And they first said he died of a heart attack, which was very strange for a young guy to die of a heart attack. And then he said he was shot. But I know people who were on site who were there to see the body, and clearly something weird, strange happened to him. And so the family the family heard of the death, and they believed what happened because, they believed what the police told them, which is a number one huge mistake, a gigantic mistake to believe the cops these days. I'm sorry, but they believed what they told them. And so then he started doing research. There's no way the story makes any sense. And he was last seen, I think, some of these other guys are seen on CCTV walking around or at food trucks, and then they disappear, but they're out at night. And I think that's what happened to this guy, Eli Blau. He went to Austin. The reason he went to Austin from Israel is because he loved comedy. He wanted to be part of the comedy environment. So that's what he did. He went to comedy shows and things like that, and then he ends up dead in the lake. This young guy. So,
well, I think somebody else we need to bring up along these veins, because we're talking about this blossoming comedy scene. The Kill Tony crowds literally fill up an entire alleyway to get into this show, and I mean, ripe for the picking, if you ask me. Because was this Eli Blau guy intoxicated?
I don't know the full story of his background. The thing is that the media accepted the story of the heart attack and just moved on. So you need to be an investigative reporter to get more info. You can't get it from the cops. So we don't know a lot of that information. In this kind of line of work, a lot of the families reach out to me for more answers and stuff. So I have a lot of connections to these families, the victims' families. I could write another book in itself, but there's not a lot of information. They're not divulging information. A lot of these cases, the information is not thrown out. So even some of these, we can go into the whole list. They don't say what happened to these guys, whether it's McNeil or Dakota James in Pittsburgh. They don't they're not divulging to the families what actually happened. McNeil, they just said he was found drowned. He wasn't drowned. They they took the autopsy and gave it to Cyril Wecht, and Cyril Wecht is this guy's been fired, somebody's torched this guy from his body, from his waist up. They didn't tell the family that, so he was tortured before he died. He had a mark of a hammer on his head too. So wow. That's one. And then the other one was they just said Dakota James missing 40 days, found bodies in perfect shape. He should have been when a body's in water, like it degrades. I mean, just the way it is. But he was in great shape. He was totally there. And they never told. He just said he drowned, and moved on. The family's like, "What the?" The guy was like the head of the swim team in high school. So like the dude were just has no problem floating or doing anything. Like it's a total joke that he would fall in and drown. They got the autopsy report, and the guy had a garret around his neck. Like I'm not a medical examiner. I don't have a medical degree. I could tell somebody had a rope around his neck. You know, he had a rope burn around his neck. They didn't tell. The medical examiner in Pittsburgh was a guy from China, not even born in the United States. Much like some of these other judges who are like not even first generation Americans. They're not even born in the country. They're all just totally corrupt third worlders, man. The United States, we're in real trouble. So they've been like imported these freaking bums from all over the world to like be a part of this civilization, and it's going down the tubes. So anyway, a lot of these, and these are just two examples. I can go through other ones. Chris Jenkins out of Minnesota, where like the police changed their view. They had to, because they did. It's a lot easier for the cops and everybody just to say there's an accidental drowning and move forward. Much like a recent case that happened in Nashville. I think it was super corrupt. It was all over the news. His name was Riley Strain, who traveled from Missouri to go to Nashville, another place kind of like a new Nashville, similar to Austin in a lot of ways. Nashville is obviously the center of country music, but it's like become a cultural capital, go-to place. And he was there, and I mean, you can just type in Nashville drugging or drink drugging, and you can spend a whole week just watching stories and videos about how many people are being drugged in Nashville. And so I think drugging is associated with a lot of these guys' abductions and things like that. But Riley Strain, I think, was also corrupt. They found him like 2 weeks later. He's missing his pants. No phone was ever found. So like they have to say that he, like, who leaves without their phone? Like they have to say he took his phone and disappeared it and then fell in the water and drowned. And a lot of these like true crime analysts are facilitating this kind of nonsense by having that conclusion as well. I don't want to name their names, but that's a joke. They actually accepted the fact. They just like, oh, Riley Strain wandered off the CCTV video and went to a place in the water and took a leak and then tripped and fell in and drowned. Like they literally believe that. And I'm like, this is a total joke. And disappeared for 2 weeks. Like literally evaporated into another dimension and then redimensionalized or something. Like it does. Where's his body? They're searching for his body. Like if he drowned right there, he would be floating right there or wherever he drowned. Like it's so crazy what these guys can come up with. So that's just another case, another example of corruption. And they didn't find like the state of the body. And there was an initial report of Riley Strain that came out that the medical examiner said he had air in his lungs. So why does he have air in his lungs? That's an indicator that he didn't drown. So this phenomenon that's taking place in an environment of tremendous corruption in the United States. And I think that's why it's being facilitated. So
you're talking about this widespread thing happening for decades and mass cover up, but you did allude to the fact that it's just kind of easier to write these off as drownings. Have you speculated on whether the cover up goes a little deeper and darker than that?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I think some of these guys are I think these men are being killed by gay dudes who are keeping videos of them or something weird. Like they've gone from, just having I think that this is kind of like a scale thing, like S&M and then next. And then the next thing is like we abduct random dudes. And they're all kind of athletic, kind of good-looking guys. We abduct random dudes, torture them, and then, when we're done, somebody kills them off. And I think that's what's happening, something like that. And it's been speculated. There was this girl, I concluded a chapter in the book. Her name is Bella Sloan. And she kind of intuited that kind of thing. Like, this is what's been going on. She tied it back into the Chicago music scene, which I didn't. But she said executives, people with a lot of money and like dudes. And the other thing is, like, some of these people who like the dudes, they may externally have heterosexual lives. Like, they may have a wife and kids, but they actually are more polyamorous or whatever, and this is what they do on the side. And so that wouldn't be the first. I mean, there's serial killers like that. There was a guy in the Midwest, his name was Buckmeister or something like that. He externally was a wealthy guy with a wife, but he was trolling for dudes and killing them, and he got caught and killed himself. But
yeah, Julius talked about him. It's like Herb Baumeister.
Baumeister. Yeah, thank you. Anyway, so I think that's something really devious and deviant is going on. And there's actually a case where it was happening where people got arrested, and it was in Adelaide, and they were abducting people and keeping them in a jail or like a dungeon, and they got caught. And the guy's name, and I included in my book, I can't remember it, but like, it's like dark, man. It's really dark. So I think, and I don't, so people say, is it one person or group? It's people with that same interest. So like, I guess if you're, what your sexual, if you're a pedophile, you're in certain groups. If you like dudes, you go, if you like S&M, whatever. Like, I think that this is just a taste of one type of group. And so I think that's why it's happening. And I think that they're networking. And I think like in some of these cases, these people are pre-selected, like they're selected either through gay apps or something. Cause there's a consistent amount of drugging going on, but there's a lot of gay apps like Grindr and things like that. And I think maybe somebody sees them and they're like, okay, this is my target, and whatever they're doing. And it's one of those kind of strange things about these disappearances too, is like the cops just don't even take even a second to like look into stuff. Like, who was he talking to before he disappeared? Let's get his passwords. Where's his phone? And like the disappearance of the phone, much like I talked about Riley Strain, is a common element. So there's like intent to cover up by whoever's perpetrating this stuff. Like there's famous cases where the phone is found smashed. So like his name is William Hurley outside of Boston. Like he disappears, but his phone's on the ground in pieces. So somebody's like, we got to get rid of this phone. And another one that came out of Boston, which is interesting, is Kelleher. He's walking north from TDS Garden, crosses the river, disappears, but his phone is pinging, and you can trace the phone ping south. So he's walking north. It's the phone is pinging south, and goes into kind of Boston proper, and then disappears. So it's like somebody is like, "Where's his phone?" And at a certain point, they're like, "Oh, we got to get rid of his phone," And then he disappears later to be found in water. All those guys are found in water. William Hurley.
One reason Grindr would be a good resource for this is because, from what I understand, once you're engaging with someone on there and your location is turned on, it says exactly where you are, like to the
right. Isn't that the point? Like that's the point of Grindr.
Yeah,
is like
easy to find.
Right. Yeah. So, and there was a guy who he was doing that. He was finding victims through gay apps in London, outside of London. Barking is like a city outside of London, and his name was Port, P-O-R-T. And it shows like how lame the cops can be, because Stephen Port, like he was dumping his bodies not in the river, but like leaving them in a church courtyard with fake notes. So it's like he's like, "Oh, this is John's suicide note," and the parents and the families are like, Bob's not suicidal. This doesn't make any sense. He would never talk like that or whatever. And so Port, they were like, okay, so the police are dragging Port's out killing. We don't know how many people he killed. He eventually got convicted for 4 of these types of killings, gay, into GHB, on gay apps. But one of the family members, like, is bothering the police, like, hey, I want to see the CCTV video, because they're covering everywhere in the UK, especially London. The police never looked at the CCTV video of one of the family members, and they gave it to the family member, and they're like, okay, I want to see my loved one. Where was he last? And they've got the last video of this guy, and he's like, who's he with? The family member is like, who is with my loved one? I forgot his name right now, but who is this guy with this? And the police are like, we have no idea. Well, didn't you look into it? No, they didn't look into it. And who would they find it was? It was Stephen Port. And then the whole thing unraveled. And they actually are still like, and there's an inquest. I keep looking to see if the way that when they bungle that bad in England, they do this kind of like in the States where they do kind of like a follow-up commission. They call it an inquest. So there's an inquest into police bungling about the Stephen Port case and like a literal serial killer. And it's not out yet, but like we don't know how many other people he's killed. Like it's crazy. I don't know how I got it. Oh, so it was really about Grindr. So I think the gay apps is that's why I kind of like. I'm not saying all of the victims are gay. There's a over majority who are gay, but some don't seem to have any like hidden life at all. Like, but I do think they were targeted through some of these apps, which is really dark. And it wouldn't be the first time something like that happened. There was these cases in Juarez, which is right over the border from El Paso. They call them the femicide murders. Like hundreds and hundreds of women have died. Young girls, actually. They're like 14 or 15 or 16. Young Mexican women. And they surmised that there was a commonality of these girls were going to this third-party training site to get computer training because there's maquiladores and they're all dirt poor. And they think that they had their pictures were taken, and somebody from the cartels or somebody from traveling would target the girls whose pictures were taken because they saw them. So some dirty, older guy. And then they would kill them, and it would be like some of the people who've researched it. It's part of the sex, but it's also like a binding together in great crime. So, and it's like MS-13 is really dark. Like they're satanic, by the way. People don't know that. They do all kinds of human sacrifice. So these girls that are happening there were pre-selected. And then it's like the crew, like if you kill together, you're going to stay together because once you rat each other out, like you're going to kill that guy probably is my suspicion. All kinds of strange deaths in Juarez about those deaths of those girls too. So police would be tracked down and shot. And I mean, it's just like border town slaughterhouse, but it's somewhat similar to the smiley face killings. And I had talked with one person who I researched with, and she's like, what if people are flying in because like these people are captured and caught, and then the big, the guy who's paying for it flies in to do the crime and leaves. And I was like, wow, that could be possible these days. And one of the interesting things about Joy LaBute, who I studied in Columbus, Ohio, the first guy I researched, who was online on a gay app or whatever, he was there for the Arnold Schwarzenegger Classic, which is like 20 or 30,000 bodybuilders fly in from all over the world. So it's like the perfect crime. Like if you're a bodybuilder and want to commit a crime, fly into town, commit the crime, and leave.
Wow.
Much like these comedians too. If you're a comedian, if you're a musician, like you can go to a city and commit a crime and just you bolt out because you're not even a local,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought it, since you swung it back to the comedy thing, I'm sure because I listened to you on Tinfoil Hat talking about this, and you did mention this one victim, the name slipping me, had seen Tom Segura and
Christian Pugh.
Okay, so I'm sure you're aware of the Garth Brooks thing that Tom Segura brought attention to, but have you seen, and I don't know if you can find it, I did see it a while ago, but it was something that Tom Segura wrote in high school about if he was a serial killer, how he would do it, how he would get away with it.
Yeah, no, it's bad. Like it's like his wife said, like, you've talked about wanting to kill people or something like that. Like your family, YHFM or whatever it's called. Like, and he said, yeah, like, well, there's some, I don't know it. I got to be careful. I don't remember what they said verbatim, but she like hints like, Tom, you have weird stuff. And he was like, he just smiled back at her, did something weird. Like, so I think that, but they keyed into how strange Garth Brooks was. And they have video of that guy saying like, oh, you should just kill him. And there's videos where it's like, it's not, Garth Brooks is not being natural. In since I've been looking into Garth Brooks, like other country musicians say this guy's fake as a $3 bill. Like he was like somebody who's created as an entertainer, almost like somebody creates the Jackson 5 or Backstreet Boys, like a band, creates a band in the front. Like he was like supposedly like that. Like he's facilitated, not some guy who started out with a guitar and wrote his own songs or something like that.
Is he out of Nashville? Do you
He
know?
has a bar in Nashville.
Because I know that Sean McCann has done a presentation about Nashville kind of being like a country music Laurel Canyon of sorts.
I think that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, the comedic element, or not comedic, the stand-up comedy element of this is just crazy because, like you said, I mean, where these people go and they have their guards down, they could possibly get drugged. Now, you gotta look at how some of these guys are just really dark, and it would be a perfect way. You get to travel city to city. You're there for a couple nights and then you're gone. And with all of this stuff that's going on with the cover-ups and everything, you could get away with it. So whether it's a fan of comedy or some of these are actually comedians themselves, have you wondered if it could be a few of them?
Absolutely. I actually surmised this like way back, like other bands and other people. That may be why they're in a band, is that they can go to a new town and do whatever they want and leave. Like that's it. So I don't want to name their name, but not everybody's on the up and up. But like, I mean, let's say like you're not even committing a crime. What's the benefit of being in a band? Do you make money? You go to a different town, you can hit on groupies or whatever. Like, what if that gets boring? Like the groupies get boring, or like you're a comedian, the groupies get boring. Like some of these guys, like their body count is extraordinary, like thousands. Like I remember this one. What was the guy? Nature Boy, or whatever. Like he wasn't. I'm not saying that guy's a killer. He was in wrestling, but
Oh, right, yeah.
he said like he was constantly traveling around drinking a lot. But he said he's like had sex with like 10,000 women. Like imagine if you're like you're interested in darker stuff. Like who knows? And you just hear rumors about some of the behaviors and these celebrities and stuff. It's not all wine and roses, I guess, is the way. So I've always actually, from when I first started studying this whole phenomenon, I've always thought like there's somebody involved traveling. Like truckers, they say truckers are like successful serial killers. Everybody always confuses, and every like month or so, I'll get something about the happy face killer Jesperson, who was a trucker, but he targeted women. So like he was a serial killer who got busted. I think he killed like 15 women, but he was a trucker, and so that like facilitated his criminality because he would just go somewhere else. So anyway, I've thought about that. This kind of like a celebrity, and like some of them are really dark.
Well, and like look at Rogan right now. He brags about how he has these ex-Navy SEALs. It's like he's got like a security entourage now.
Wow.
So, I mean, you got to assume that it gets to the level where you would surround yourself by people who are used to this kind of shit. Like they're seeing the darkest side of life when they served overseas. They were part of special operations units, and now they're just guarding these big celebrities. And I'm sure you could just look the other way and not have any kind of feelings about it if
If
that's
you're
who
getting
you
paid
are.
right, look at Diddy. Like those are like literal criminal events, drugging people and raping people and stuff like that. He had security. He had it. I remember it. I forgot his name, but he had a chief of security who had to have known all this stuff. And that's just like his name. He may not. The chief of security was also intimidating people, and like he was involved in other things that may be not legal. If you know what I mean, like. I don't want to say his name, but he had a guy who was like a tough guy, like you have in a mob, you've got the enforcer or something. It's almost like Diddy had that, so he knew he was doing stuff, but he was. I mean, that's another thing. While these things are not getting caught, there may be some association with blackmail and stuff like that. Like I'm sure Diddy was blackmailing all those people that were at his parties. So some of these other parties, if they're gay parties or whatever. I mean, Epstein carried around this girl Giuffre. She was 15. Like there's pictures of her at like one of those celebrity parties at 15. Like he's probably blackmailing all these other people. So you don't know why these crimes aren't being solved. This may be one of the reasons is that they're being blackmailed. But yeah, I mean, so it can get pretty dark out there, man. It's scary. Like if that, maybe that's why some of these security guys are hired, is that they are not as moral as other people, you know?
Yeah, I would say so. And there's this, I don't know, I don't want to be cliche and call it gatekeeping, but this new comedy scene in Texas is he Joe Rogan hinted at having a club for a few years, and then I was just kind of like, is this going to happen or not? But he calls it the Mothership, and it is every headliner in the country dies to go there. And you also notice that Rogan's guests on his show, it's like two or three of them a week are these stand-up comedians who nobody has heard about. And once they're on that show, I mean, if they've got any kind of chops, they'll take off. And it's weird because I always think about these like limited hangouts where if you're dying to get in, what kind of initiation rituals might they have entailed with this? Like it could be that dark. I've wondered like, hey, there's a guy that we've been keeping our eye on, and you could follow him and do whatever you want, but if you want to get in with us, I mean that's like, classic gang 101 right there is initiation rituals.
Right. Who knows? I mean, if you're from Hollywood, you've heard of these stories, or the casting couch is really pervasive, like the whole casting couch thing for men and women. And a lot of people thought people were joking about all these like rappers and sodomy and gay stuff. It turned out to be true. Like all the jokes and like comedians and people talking about it, it's like, whoa, you really are doing this, and this is what you have to do. And so, I mean, who's to say that's not happening in Dallas? I don't know. So yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I mean, we can go into Rogan, his connection to disinfo and all that stuff. Have you ever read that and all those things?
No,
Okay.
no.
Well,
What is it?
gets a little his booker is part of the disinformation network, who's run by a guy by the name of Metzger, and I'm pretty sure he ran that. And
Is
go
it
look.
is it a comedian that runs it?
No.
Okay.
It's an occultist
Oh,
who's
okay.
talked to Genesis. I mean, it gets dark. Genesis P. Orge and Robert Anton Wilson. Like, oh,
Okay.
like I know this stuff. Like I've researched this stuff, so I know. I've in Children of the Beast, my book, and this guy, I think that's where his booker's from. Look up the Disinfo Company. I mean, I used to have one of their books. I wonder if it's still around. Yeah, publishing. It was a publishing company. Disinformation Books.
Wow.
DisinfoCon 12-hour event featuring Richard Metzger. Look up Richard Metzger.
Richard Metzger. Okay.
Yeah. I think it's gone. They put out a bunch of films and stuff, but I think the guy who's his Rogan's booker is from that. I don't know.
Well, there was pictures of
Doesn't
him,
mean everything though. It doesn't mean anything.
the pictures of him with I think it was Anton LaVey's, it's either his son or his grandson. It was a picture that was taken years ago, but it started to surface more in the last few years. I mean, he's totally thrown up the devil's horns with this fucking. I don't know if he's his son. It might have been his grandson. It was a LaVey. It might have been. No, it wasn't.
I think it's his grandson. I think Rogan was with his grandson. I think he addressed it too. He's like, we were just screwing around. But there's pictures of Rogan doing like the, sign of silence and all this stuff. So he's been in Hollywood. They all have. They know the routine. I think they all know what's going on.
Well, and recently they've been saying, yeah, Rogan got invited to these big banker meetings to speak, and he turned it down because he doesn't want to get into that world. It's like, yeah, it's damage control. Like, look, he was offered a seat at the dinner where these guys all meet up, and he turned him down because he's got integrity. But you mentioned his booker. There's a guy that he's working with.
Matt Staggs, is that his name? I forgot. Maybe it's not.
If it's the guy I'm thinking about, it wasn't Esalen, it was some other, is it Synanon? This is something Brandy brought up. We did our episode about this with you know who Matthew North was, right? Or
Yeah, yeah,
or
no, that's
is.
fair.
I
Sure.
mean that's a whole other rabbit hole on all of this, because this was a young kid really going after Alex Jones, and ended up being Joe Rogan also. And yeah, I know some people who claim to know that guy's dead, and I would like to hope they're wrong, but it makes you wonder, like, how much of this do you want to expose? I mean, we're certainly not the only ones talking about it, but
No, no way.
yeah, is there anything else you wanted to throw in the mix here?
No, I mean, I've got 5 books. People can see my books on Amazon, 5 documentaries on Patreon, a lot of interesting other topics I've been working on. Kind of the connection between Catcher in the Rye and assassins in the U.S. and all the way up to the present, really. Strange overlaps. And I think I'm almost at 1,400 episodes on my podcast on all kinds of different subjects. And
Yeah, do you put them out daily?
I've been going through my archive. So I do put them out daily. I put about 3 a day. And I found that it's kind of facilitating, like, my advertising is my content. So the more content I put out, it kind of helps, people share it. So that's what I've done. Like these old ones, like I've had stuff from like my archives from 2020, 2019, 2021. And also because of my older web, I kept them. And then, YouTube censored me. So now I'm trying to re-upload them to Rockfin and X and Twitter. Hopefully they'll stay there, and Rumble. So people who are on my Rumble channel, they don't see my whole archive. They don't see the older shows, which I have video of. So like this, I'll re-upload this one to those places too.
I did just see that they took Johnny Vidmore's Epstein stuff off of Rumble.
Yeah, that's what I was referencing earlier when I said that. Like, they took him, but they left his other stuff up there, right? So,
yeah, that's
strange. So
cherry pick censoring.
Yeah, it's more clever. Like the YouTube will just take everything you got. Like I said, I don't think that it was really about censorship. I think it was really about punishing people financially who were not on board with the program of either the shot or the 2020 election stolen, which was obvious. I can prove it's stolen. So I mean, I can't believe I'm having this conversation with people online. Like, how do you know the proof? Well, 15 million ballots showed up in the middle of the night. Like, give me a break. Oh,
this is a not Trumper person saying this, everybody. So
yeah,
that's
I've criticized Trump all day. Trump knows all the secret society stuff, by the way. I don't know if he's a Mason or not, but I know he studied the Kabbalah, and he knows a lot of this. He's sophisticated. This guy's very sophisticated.
Well, I think 2 of his kids went to Jesuit schools, and he went to that division of UPenn. They basically call it Deep State University, where Elon also went. So, or no, that was Ivanka. So,
right.
But
So
it's all scattered out there. But yeah, I would love to have you back on to talk about Catcher in the Rye.
Yeah.
Maybe at some point we could do some West Memphis 3 stuff. I'm very intrigued by all of that. So
still around. I just did a recent show on them, and it just never goes away. Like, it's kind of like the gift that keeps on giving. I did one called West Memphis 3 for Dummies. So if you don't have access, like from the stuff from 2012 when a lot, was kind of heating up, like there's still information and stuff, people researching it. And that book I wrote from 2012 was Abomination. But I mean, Tim Pool invited Eccles onto a show either last year or the year before. Like, this is like, Tim Pool is one of the biggest shows in the world. It's got Eccles on there. I'm like, this dude is a convicted child killer, bro. Like, come on. He's still convicted. He's still convicted a lot.
Yeah, because he ended up doing the Alfred plea.
Yeah, that's actually one of the I think that there's kind of some of the friends of surrounding Pool and Rogan get them into trouble because they believe the hype or the propaganda around some of these people. So Amanda Knox was on Rogan, and Eccles was on there, but I don't think that the hosts were the ones that really set it up. I think somebody surrounding them or one of their friends did, who really didn't get the right information. So
Well, I mean, Duncan Trussell is another one of those. You know who he is? He's
I do. Only too well. He's friends with Eccles.
Yeah,
Like,
he's
that's
really
his
good.
buddy
He's
with
really
Rogan.
tight with them, and I mean, he does the occultist stuff like tongue in cheek, which is clever because
It's clever. Yeah, it's a good one.
But anyway, yeah,
He's been on Rogan like at least 10 times. That guy
Oh,
Trussell is close friends with Rogan.
Yeah, and he was one of those guys who was kind of a bottom feeder at the Comedy Store for a while, along with like Ari Shaffir worked the door for a certain amount of
Oh,
years.
I didn't know that. That was
Yeah, and then they end up getting in with him, and I mean, he takes you on the road. That's your big chance. And so a lot of these guys, I mean, how many people say I owe everything?
Yeah. All of them, almost
Mhm.
all do. Like Sam Tripoli always is praising Rogan. He's a kingmaker. Rogan really is a kingmaker. He made the president Trump and all those guys. Like, he really is. They'll write books about it. He's more influential than the entire legacy media. Like, I'm not exaggerating. It sounds crazy.
I
am
don't think
not
it does at this point.
Okay, well, it may sound crazy to like old farts like me, who like grew up on CBS, NBC, and ABC, but I think that he's more important than those old media things and like the cable networks. I really do.
I mean, just the format alone kind of affords it that to where he can make it instantly into your earbuds. And Johnny Carson was on like once a night, and that was where you
Right.
used to go to get your comedy start. But now,
Well said. You're
it's
absolutely right.
just, yeah, it's taken over. They saw it coming, they infiltrated it, and let your imaginations run wild on what all that means. But
50 million downloads for Trump alone. Like, I don't even like, he has more downloads in one show than I've had in my entire life. Like, it's huge. Like, the guy is incredible. You got to give him kudos and props. So all those people who give him kudos and props, like,
they're not wrong.
They're not wrong. Like, I mean, they don't even have to. It's just I think it's just an established fact. He's incredible. He's a remarkable world historical figure. I'm not exaggerating. And they have to give him props for that. Like, I don't know how he did it. He's clearly very intelligent. For a guy, I wouldn't say that he has like your standard academic credentials, but very well spoken. And you can't. I don't think it's an accident. Maybe all these people are supporting. I mean, he's engendered like the support of really powerful people, like all these people that are on there, whether it's Thiel or Musk or whatever, like, or Trump. Like, wow, you established a relationship with these guys too, man. It's incredible. Like, Trump is the most powerful person in the world. There's no question about that either. And so it's a different world, and it's you gotta, I mean, it's okay to criticize and contrast and try to figure these people out because they're so influential. Like, I think it isn't Joe Rogan. I mean, we talk about comedy. Comedy is the theme of this. He really is the kingmaker in the comedy world with that podcast and with that, like you said, the mothership. Like, this is like the new Comedy Store, right? It's probably more influential than the Comedy Store.
I think it already is. Yeah, I think so. I would say that she had kind of a Misty Shore. She kind of had Mitzi. She kind of had an underground thing going on there, but this now is it's making its way to all of us. They call it the top 250 comedy assassins, and it's the exclusive club to be in. And I know that Cat Williams kind of caught some heat because he's talked about 6 of the guys selling out studios right now aren't even funny, and we have Joe Rogan for them to thank them for their careers. And then he went on Rogan after saying that.
Well, good for him. At least Rogan can take a joke.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, well, William, this has been awesome, and I will put all of your links down here in the show notes, and I will
website WilliamRamseyInvestigates.com, podcast William Ramsey Investigates, Patreon, it's all the same. So you can just type in all those for Patreon. The show. Sorry to interrupt him.
No, you just did it for me. I will talk to you a little bit after I stop this recording just to get some more information on that. But yeah, thank you so much. This has been a killer conversation, and we will talk at some point about Catcher in the Rye, and then hopefully some West Memphis 3 down the road. All right, conspiracy players, keep your head on a swivel out there, and just ask yourself, who are you listening to and what are they telling you and where did they come from? And look at some of the stuff William talked about today. Oops.
Guess I'll be the guy that's gonna wake you up and open your eyes.
You don't get pulled over anymore here.
And if I do, it's not that big of a deal.
If you get pulled over
I'm a good
here,
boy.
a cop gives you money. They go, Mr. Rogan, here's a check. I mean, there's no way. There's no law that you cannot break here. I'm guaranteeing you.
I don't think that's correct.
I think you could do a lot. I think they would cover up a murder.
That's sweet.
If you murdered 3 people, I think the Austin PD would go, whatever, man. He's doing a lot. They'd bring that mayor, that guy, and he'd go, what? They go, yeah, the suspect's Joe Rogan. He was standing over the bodies. They'd go, are you out of your fucking mind? Drive him home right now. Drive that man home.
If I was in waist deep in Rainy Street, drowning a party goer,
they don't care.
Bro, they still don't want to admit that there's a serial killer.
You're the tourism board. There's something's up.
There's a serial killer.
Something's going on.
I believe there's a serial killer.
And what are they doing? They're luring people to that bridge and then...
Yeah, it's not hard. People like to go to the bridge. You just got to look out for the bushes.
So weird. I guess it's such a high to kill someone. To me, I'm like, what do you get out of it? But I guess the people that are doing it like it.
They're broken. There's broken people. And some broken people do meth, and some broken people drown guys who like to party.